Black brothers were kicked out of the dealership, but the next day everything changed. Michael and Jason Wright were nervous as they walked among the gleaming imported cars. Their oil-stained coveralls and simple t-shirts stood out in the luxurious environment of Elegance Motors, located in the upscale part of Manhattan. But they had a noble goal: to buy a comfortable car for Grandma Rose, who had raised them since they were little and now suffered from mobility problems. That's when Richard Thompson, the manager of the dealership, approached them with a smile that quickly transformed into contempt. His eyes traveled over the brothers' simple clothes and the oil stains on their hands. "Can I help you?" he asked in an icy tone, making it clear that the question was merely a formality. Michael, the older one at 24, stepped forward confidently. "Good afternoon. We're interested in the sedan with accessibility features that we saw on the website. The silver one with adaptations for seniors." Richard crossed his arms and gave a short laugh. "That one costs $220,000. I'm sure it's out of your budget. I suggest looking for something more accessible elsewhere." Jason, 19, felt his face burn. He had worked overtime for 2 years to save his portion of the money. "We have the amount," he stated, holding the envelope with the transfer confirmation. They had prepared. The manager looked around, noticing that other customers were observing the scene. His smile completely disappeared. "Look, guys, this is a premium dealership. Our vehicles are for a specific customer profile. People like you clearly don't fit in here." An awkward silence took over the showroom. Some employees lowered their gaze, embarrassed. An elderly lady who was examining a vehicle nearby stopped to observe, visibly bothered by the situation. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out, now continuing." "But we have the money," Michael insisted, maintaining his calm despite the humiliation. "We've been working in our family's repair shop for years and saved every penny for this gift." "Repair shop?" the manager laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That explains the smell. I'm sorry, but I need to ask you to leave. You're bothering our real customers." 2 security guards approached, positioning themselves beside the manager. The message was clear: leave willingly or be escorted out. Jason clenched his fists, ready to protest, but Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. He knew his younger brother's temperament well. "Let's go, Jason," he said in a controlled voice, though his eyes revealed deep hurt. "This isn't the place to resolve this." With dignity, both walked to the exit, feeling the gazes of everyone present. The manager followed at a safe distance, as if escorting criminals. "And don't come back," he muttered when they reached the door. "I know all the managers of the dealerships in the area. One word from me, and nobody will sell you even a flat tire." In the parking lot, Jason kicked an empty can, venting his anger. "Who does he think he is? We had the money, all the money." Michael was about to respond when a female voice interrupted them. "Young men, wait." It was the elderly lady who had been observing everything inside the dealership. She approached with careful steps, supported by an elegant cane. "My name is Eleanor Fitzgerald. What happened in there was inexcusable. You have every right to file a complaint." Michael thanked her politely, but Jason remained furious. "Complaint? That won't solve anything. That guy humiliated us in front of everyone just because of how we look." Mrs. Fitzgerald nodded, understanding. "Precisely why. What he did was a crime, discrimination, and you should fight against it." As they talked, a young man who worked as an attendant at the dealership approached discreetly. His eyes constantly checked if anyone was watching him. "I'm sorry for what happened," he said quietly. "Someone filmed everything, and it's already circulating in social media groups. Richard always does this, but he's never been so explicit." Michael looked at the young man, surprised. "They filmed it? Who?" "A customer. She was outraged." Jason's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from his cousin Jennifer with the video attached, and a message of indignation. Within minutes, the incident was already circulating in various community groups in Brownsville, where they lived. "This won't go unanswered," Jason muttered, as he watched the video that clearly showed the contempt on the manager's face and their embarrassment. Mrs. Fitzgerald wrote her phone number on an elegant card and handed it to the brothers. If you need a witness or any kind of help, you can contact me. I know good lawyers." They thanked the lady and walked to the bus stop. The journey back home was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The humiliation still burned, leaving a bitter taste. When they arrived home, a modest 2-story house in Brooklyn that shared space with the family's auto repair shop on the ground floor, they found Grandma Rose sitting in her favorite armchair, watching her favorite soap opera. At 78, she still maintained the perceptive look that had always intimidated her grandsons when they were children. "Why those faces? What happened?" she asked, turning down the volume on the television. Michael tried to hide it. "Nothing, Grandma, just tired." But Grandma Rose knew her grandsons well. "Tell me the truth, boy. I've known you since you were in diapers." Jason, always more transparent with his emotions, was about to tell her when Grandma Rose's cell phone rang. It was Christine, a neighbor and longtime friend. "Hi, Chris, now what videos, my grandsons?" The elderly woman's face paled as she watched the video of the humiliation her grandsons had suffered. Her eyes filled with tears, alternating between sadness and indignation. "You were going to buy me a car?" she asked with a choked voice after ending the call. Michael knelt beside his grandmother. "We wanted to surprise you, Grandma. You're having trouble taking the bus, and you deserve comfort after sacrificing so much to raise us, Emoy." Grandma Rose's wrinkled hands trembled as she tried to control her breathing. Suddenly, she put her hand to her chest, and her face contorted in an expression of pain. "Grandma!" shouted the brothers in unison, rushing to support her. "My medicine!" she whispered, pointing to the dresser. Jason ran to get her blood pressure medication, while Michael held his grandmother's hand, trying to calm her. Minutes later, seeing that her condition wasn't improving, they decided to take her to the hospital. At the emergency room of Brownsville Community Hospital, Grandma Rose was promptly attended to. The doctor explained that she had suffered a spike in blood pressure, probably triggered by strong emotional stress. "She'll need to stay under observation tonight," explained Dr. Mitchell, adjusting his glasses. "Her pressure is very high, and we want to monitor her to avoid complications." In the hospital corridor, while Grandma Rose rested under medication, the brothers made a silent pact. They wouldn't let the situation go unpunished. "That guy will pay for what he did," Jason muttered, his eyes fixed on the worn linoleum floor of the hospital. Michael nodded, thoughtful, "But we'll do it the right way, without losing our reason." The next morning, after a night poorly spent in uncomfortable hospital chairs, the brothers received news that Grandma Rose was stable, but would need absolute rest for a few days. Dr. Mitchell emphasized the importance of avoiding stressful situations. "We'll continue with the plan to buy the car," Michael decided as they returned home to get clean clothes for their grandmother. "But at another dealership. There's Simmons Motors in the neighboring area. They say the service is better." When they arrived at Simmons Motors, they were greeted with polite smiles by a saleswoman. However, after mentioning the model they wanted, she excused herself and stepped away to speak with the manager. Minutes later, she returned with a different expression. "I'm sorry, but we don't have that model available at the moment. Maybe in 2 or 3 months." Michael immediately realized what was happening. "But your website says you have 3 units available." The saleswoman stammered, clearly uncomfortable. "There was an error in the system. I apologize for the inconvenience." They left and tried 2 more dealerships with similar results. At the last one, a younger employee was honest. "Look, you're the brothers from the video, right? Richard from Elegance called all the dealerships in the area, said you're known scammers, that you tried to pull a con job there." Jason nearly lunged across the counter, only restrained by his brother. "That's a lie. We have the money and we can prove it." The young man shrugged, powerless. "I believe you, but I'm not the one who decides. The owner doesn't want problems with the other dealerships." They returned home devastated. It wasn't enough to be humiliated. Now they were being defamed, prevented from buying the gift they had dreamed of for their grandmother. When they entered the repair shop, they found Mr. Jenkins, a long-time customer, waiting for them. The middle-aged man seemed embarrassed. "Boys, I came to bring the car in for service, but first I wanted to say I saw that video. A shame what they did to you." Michael began to inspect the customer's vehicle, trying to maintain a normal routine despite everything. "That's life, Mr. Jenkins. Prejudiced people exist everywhere." "It's not just that," continued the man. "My nephew works at Prime Motors, you know. He told me that all the luxury dealerships in the area received a call speaking ill of you." Jason, who was organizing tools on the workbench, dropped a wrench onto the concrete floor. The metallic noise echoed through the shop. "That son of..." "How's Jason?" interrupted Michael, casting a warning look at his younger brother. Mr. Jenkins scratched his graying head. "The worst part is that this manager, this Richard guy, has done this before. My nephew says he has a reputation for treating people badly if they don't dress well or don't look rich, you know what I mean?" Before they could respond, Michael's cell phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Good afternoon. Am I speaking with Michael Wright?" asked a female voice on the other end. "Yes, that's me. My name is Patricia Harrison. I'm an assistant to Mr. William Harrison, owner of Elegance Motors. I'd like to speak with you, if possible." Michael signaled for Jason to come closer and put the phone on speaker. "Go ahead." "Mr. Harrison is on a business trip in Europe and won't return until next week. He still doesn't know about the incident." She made an uncomfortable pause. "But when he finds out, he'll be furious. Mr. Thompson has had similar problems in the past and was on probation." "Why are you telling us this?" asked Jason, suspicious. "Because what happened was wrong," Patricia responded, with firmness in her voice. "And because I know that Mr. Thompson is spreading lies about you to other dealerships. This could lead to a serious lawsuit." Michael ran his hand through his short hair, trying to process the information. "And what do you suggest we do?" "Wait for Mr. Harrison to return. He's a fair man and doesn't tolerate this kind of behavior. Meanwhile, document everything, the video, the refusals from other dealerships, witnesses." After the call, the brothers discussed what to do. Jason, impulsive as always, wanted to confront Richard immediately. "Let's go there right now. I'll record everything and we'll expose this guy." Michael shook his head, disagreeing. "No, Jason, that will only make things worse. We need to be strategic." "Strategic?" Jason raised his voice, frustrated. "While we're being strategic, that guy continues to defame us and Grandma's in the hospital." It was the first time in years that the brothers had seriously argued. Always united since their difficult childhood, they rarely disagreed on important decisions. But the humiliation and injustice had affected each one differently. "Grandma wouldn't want us to do something stupid," argued Michael. "Let's wait for the owner to return," as the assistant suggested. Jason threw the shop rag onto the workbench, clearly dissatisfied. "Fine, your way then, but if it's not resolved by next week, we'll do it my way." In the following days, a wave of solidarity began to form in the community. The video had reached groups of mechanics and professionals in the automotive sector. Many knew the Wright brothers and their reputation for honest and competent work. In response to the treatment they received, various independent auto repair shops in the area began refusing service to cars sold by Elegance Motors. Customers, who arrived for maintenance, were politely informed that they should seek the official dealership, creating congestion in the company's after-sales service. Michael, despite not having encouraged the movement, felt a mixture of gratitude and concern, seeing the spontaneous mobilization. Jason, on the other hand, enthusiastically shared messages of support in professional sector text message groups. "This is people doing justice," he commented during dinner, that they were preparing to take to the hospital for Grandma Rose, who would be discharged the next day. "But it could also complicate our situation," Michael pondered. "If this movement grows too much, this William guy might be against us when he returns." On the third day after the incident, Richard Thompson called an improvised press conference in front of the dealership. Journalists from local outlets and even a TV crew showed up, attracted by the controversy that was gaining greater proportions each day. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Elegance Motors has always prided itself on excellent service, declared the manager, wearing an impeccable suit and practiced smile. What happened was a misunderstanding. The young men in question have a history of trying to access luxury dealerships to make fraudulent quotes for clients. It was an outright lie, fabricated to protect his reputation. Richard continued completely, distorting the facts. They never presented proof of financial capacity and were creating a disturbance in the showroom, bothering other customers. We had to ask them to leave, always with education and respect. Michael and Jason watched the interview on a cell phone, incredulous at the manager's audacity. "He's calling us scammers on television," Jason vociferated, pacing back and forth, in the small living room. "That's defamation, he can't do that." Michael remained silent, carefully observing each word. His cell phone rang again. It was Patricia, the owner's assistant. "Michael, did you see the interview?" "We're watching." "Say it now, he's blatantly lying. Mr. Harrison called a few minutes ago. He saw the original video and is returning earlier than planned. He arrives tomorrow morning." At the hospital, Grandma Rose was receiving final care before discharge. Her roommate, an elegant lady named Helen, made small talk with her. "So you have 2 grandsons who are mechanics? How wonderful nowadays it's so difficult to find good professionals." Grandma Rose smiled with pride. "The best. Michael especially has a gift. Imported vehicles are his specialty. He once fixed the mayor's car when no one else could identify the problem." Helen adjusted herself in the bed, interested. "Really? My husband has a collection of classic cars. He's always looking for trustworthy mechanics." "Your husband has many cars?" asked Grandma Rose, curious. "Several. He owns a dealership here. In New York. Elegance Motors, have you heard of it?" Grandma Rose's face lost its color. Her blood pressure, which had been stabilized, began to rise again, triggering the cardiac monitor alarm. "Are you okay?" asked Helen, concerned, as a nurse rushed into the room. You're William Harrison's wife?" asked Grandma Rose with a weak voice. Helen nodded, confused by the reaction. "Yes, but how do you know his last name?" The nurse asked them to stop talking so she could check Grandma Rose's vital signs. After medicating her, she advised absolute rest. "William doesn't know I'm in New York," Helen murmured when they were finally alone again. "We haven't seen each other in almost 50 years. Helen looked at her roommate with new eyes. "You know my husband. We grew up together in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We were neighbors. Meanwhile, Michael and Jason were preparing to pick up their grandmother from the hospital. They received another call from Patricia, informing them that Mr. Harrison wanted to meet them personally the next morning in his office at the dealership. He watched the video several times and has already fired 2 employees who confirmed that Mr. Thompson routinely acted this way," explained the assistant. "The manager doesn't know yet, but he'll be terminated tomorrow." The next morning, the brothers wore their best clothes, which didn't mean much considering their modest wardrobes. Michael opted for a clean polo shirt and jeans without grease stains. Jason chose his only dress shirt, a birthday gift from his grandmother. "Remember, we'll listen to what he has to say," instructed Michael as they waited in the dealership's reception. "Without losing our temper." Jason nodded, tense. The luxurious environment made them feel out of place again, but this time some employees looked at them with expressions ranging from shame to veiled sympathy. Patricia came to get them personally. "Mr. Harrison is waiting. Please follow me." They were led to a spacious office on the 2nd floor. Behind an imposing desk sat a man of about 70 years, grey hair and erect posture that exuded authority. Next to him, to the brothers' surprise, was Mrs. Fitzgerald, the lady who had approached them in the parking lot after the incident. "Mrs. Fitzgerald?" Michael couldn't hide his surprise. The lady smiled gently. "Hello, boys. I came to ensure that everything is resolved in the right way." William Harrison stood up and extended his hand to greet them. "Michael and Jason Wright. Before anything else, I want to personally apologize for the unacceptable treatment you received at this dealership." The tone was sincere, without the condescension they feared to encounter. William indicated the chairs for them to sit. "I watched the video several times and spoke with employees and customers who witnessed what happened. Mr. Thompson's behavior was unforgivable and does not reflect the values of this company." Jason, who had expected to meet resistance, slightly relaxed his shoulders. "Have you spoken with him yet?" Not yet. He will be called momentarily for a meeting where he will be terminated from the company. William paused, consulting some notes on the desk. I also learned that he contacted other dealerships spreading false information about you. Michael nodded, maintaining his composure. That damaged our reputation and made it impossible for us to make the purchase we intended. William sighed, clearly displeased with the situation. Therefore, in addition to internal disciplinary measures, I am willing to offer reparation. First, a public retraction in the same proportion as the defamation. Second, the vehicle you wish to purchase will be offered with a 30% discount, if there's still interest. The brothers exchanged surprised looks. They hadn't expected such a direct and favorable resolution. That's very generous, sir, replied Michael. But our goal was simply to buy a car for our grandmother. She's having health problems and difficulty moving around. Mrs. Fitzgerald, who was attentively observing the conversation, intervened. William, I believe these young men deserve more than a discount. The damage caused was moral. It affected their dignity. The businessman nodded, thoughtful. I have another proposal, if you'll allow me. He rearranged some papers on his desk. I've been researching you since I learned of the incident. I discovered that your repair shop has an excellent reputation, especially for specialized services on imported vehicles. Jason looked at his brother, confused by the direction of the conversation. Yes, that's Michael's specialty. He has a gift for diagnosing problems that no one else can. A smile appeared on the businessman's face. That's what I found out. In fact, Michael, you recently turned down an offer to work at a luxury dealership in Newark, with a salary 3 times higher than your current income, am I right? Michael shifted in his chair, surprised by the level of information the man possessed. Yes, I couldn't move to another city and leave my grandmother and brother. William Harrison then made a proposal that left the brothers momentarily speechless. I would like to offer you the technical direction of Elegance Motors, Michael as Director of Technical Services and Jason as Quality and Customer Service Supervisor. The dealership needs a complete overhaul, starting with how we treat people. The silence that followed was broken by the abrupt entrance of Richard Thompson into the office. The manager seemed furious and didn't even notice the brothers' presence. William, what's this story about termination? I demand an explanation. Upon turning and seeing Michael and Jason seated in front of his boss, his face paled. What are they doing here? William stood up, his gentle expression replaced by a mask of severity. Mr. Thompson, I am offering the Wright brothers positions in our company as part of a reparation for the unacceptable treatment they received. Your behavior violated all the principles of this company and caused significant damage to our reputation. Richard laughed nervously. You're going to put 2 backyard mechanics in leadership positions? That's insane. Your termination is already official, replied William coldly. Security, please escort Mr. Thompson to collect his belongings. After the tumultuous exit of the ex-manager, the brothers were still processing the proposal they had received. Jason was the first to express reservations. With all due respect, Mr. Harrison, why would we accept working in a place where we were humiliated? William nodded, understanding the distrust. That's a fair question. My proposal isn't just about jobs, but about transformation. I want this dealership to be an example of inclusion and respect, and who better to lead that change than people who felt prejudice firsthand? Michael, always more thoughtful, was considering the proposal seriously. This would mean abandoning the family repair shop. Not necessarily, replied William. We can establish a partnership. Your shop can become an authorized extension of our services, a specialization center for complex cases. The conversation continued for another hour, detailing aspects of the proposal and clarifying doubts. At the end, William asked them to think carefully and give an answer in a few days. On the way to the hospital, where they would pick up Grandma Rose to take her home, the brothers discussed animatedly. It's the opportunity of our lifetime, Michael, argued Jason. Salary 5 times higher, benefits, chance for growth. But it means changing everything we've built so far, Michael pondered, and we don't know if we can trust him. Mrs. Fitzgerald seemed to trust him. She wouldn't be there supporting if she didn't believe it was legitimate. When they arrived at the hospital, they found Grandma Rose sitting on the bed, chatting animatedly with her roommate. Seeing their grandsons, both ladies smiled complicitly. "Boys, I want to introduce you to Helen Harrison," said Grandma Rose with a mischievous sparkle in her eyes. Michael and Jason looked at each other, confused. "Harrison as in—" "Yes, I'm William Harrison's wife," confirmed Helen, smiling gently. "And apparently your grandmother and my husband have a long history together." Grandma Rose held her new friend's hand. "Helen and I talked a lot these days. I didn't know the owner of the dealership was William. We grew up together in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We were practically family." "Life has these coincidences," commented Helen. "When your grandmother told me about her talented grandsons, I never imagined they were the same young men from the video that so upset my husband." On the way home, Grandma Rose explained that she and William had been close friends in their youth but lost contact when he moved to study in New York. She never imagined he had become a successful businessman in the automotive sector. "He was always passionate about cars," she recalled nostalgically. "Even as a teenager, he was taking apart and reassembling engines like it was a toy." The coincidence seemed providential, but Jason still had reservations. "Grandma," he offered, "here's jobs at the dealership, as directors." Grandma Rose's expression lit up. "And you accepted, of course." Michael explained that they were still considering the proposal. "I don't know, Grandma. It seems too good to be true. And after everything that happened..." The elderly woman looked at her grandsons seriously. "My dears, sometimes life offers us opportunities disguised as challenges. The William I knew was always an honest and fair man. If he made this proposal, it's because he saw in you the value that I've always seen." In the following days, while they were still considering the proposal, the brothers were surprised by a defamation campaign initiated by Richard. The ex-manager, resentful, began spreading rumors about the Wright brothers' technical qualifications in professional groups in the automotive sector. "These guys can barely change oil and now they're going to run a premium dealership? It's the end of the luxury market in New York," he said, in a recording that went viral in social media groups. Michael was concerned about the impact of the statements, but Jason saw the situation differently. "This only proves that we should accept the position. If we stay on the defensive, he wins." The final decision came unexpectedly. One morning, a yellow Porsche parked in front of the Wright brothers' modest repair shop. From the vehicle emerged a young man of about 30, wearing casual but clearly expensive clothes. "I'm looking for Michael Wright," he announced as he entered the shop. Jason, who was organizing tools, pointed to his brother who was working under an old Audi. "Michael, you have a visitor." The mechanic came out from under the car, wiping his hands on an already greasy rag. "Yes?" The young man extended his hand. "I'm Lucas Harrison, William's son. I don't think you remember me." Michael narrowed his eyes, trying to recall. "I'm sorry, I don't remember. 6 months ago, you fixed my BMW when no dealership could identify the problem. A strange noise in the engine that only appeared above 75 vpm. "Oh, yes," Michael smiled, remembering. "A problem with the electronic injection calibration. Interesting. Case?" Lucas smiled, satisfied to be remembered. "Exactly. You solved in 2 hours what 5 dealership mechanics couldn't in 2 weeks." Jason approached, curious about the conversation. "That was when you were still testing that new diagnostic equipment, right?" Lucas looked around the modest but impeccably organized shop. "I came personally to tell you that you should accept my father's proposal. Elegance Motors needs professionals like you." "Why?" questioned Michael. "Your father already has a complete technical team there." The young Harrison sighed. "A team that was shaped by Richard, technically competent professionals, but without the passion I see here." He gestured toward the meticulously organized tools and ongoing projects. "Besides, none of them has your natural talent for complex diagnostics." Lucas's visit was the final push they needed. That night, after a long family conversation, the brothers decided to accept William Harrison's proposal. With some conditions, they would keep the family shop operating as a specialized center. Michael would develop a technical training program for young people from underprivileged areas, and Jason would implement a new inclusive customer service protocol. 2 weeks later, Elegance Motors announced a reopening after renovations. The environment was redesigned to be more welcoming, without losing its sophistication. The employees underwent intensive training on inclusive and non-discriminatory service. Michael implemented new technologies in the technical department, while Jason revolutionized the customer reception process. On the day of the reopening, customers, employees, and local press gathered for a special breakfast. William Harrison, alongside the Wright brothers and Grandma Rose in her wheelchair, was preparing to speak when a commotion arose at the entrance. Richard Thompson, visibly intoxicated, invaded the event. "So this is it, the great transformation," he shouted, staggering among the guests. "Destroy everything we built to please two backyard mechanics." Security approached, but William signaled for them to wait. "Mr. Thompson, you weren't invited. I suggest you leave before we take legal measures." Richard laughed bitterly. "Legal? You want to talk about legality?" He pointed at Michael. "Why don't you ask him about the maintenance documents I signed in recent years? The original parts we replaced with generic ones while charging full price." A tense silence took over the environment. Michael stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out now continuing. "Don't play dumb," Richard vociferated. "You think nobody knows about the schemes that went on here, the scheduled maintenance that was never fully done, the falsified reports." William Harrison paled. He had never suspected such serious irregularities. "Mr. Thompson, these are serious accusations. If you have proof..." "Proof?" Richard laughed, pulling his cell phone from his pocket. "I have everything here. Emails, reports, everything you need to bury this dealership." The ex-manager, in his attempt at revenge, had just confessed his own frauds in front of dozens of witnesses, including journalists who were recording everything. One of the security guards finally removed him from the location as he continued to shout uncoordinated accusations. After the tumult, William resumed the event with an even more significant speech than planned. "What we just witnessed represents exactly the type of management and values we are leaving behind. From today, Elegance Motors has a new commitment to transparency, inclusion, and genuine technical excellence." The reopening was a success, with positive coverage from local press that highlighted the Wright brothers' story of overcoming adversity. In the following months, the dealership saw a significant increase in sales, and especially in customer satisfaction, with the after-sales service remodeled by Michael. Jason, initially the most resistant to the change, flourished in his new position. His natural charisma and experience as someone who had suffered discrimination made him exceptional in training the service team. Under his supervision, the dealership began to receive customers of all profiles with the same respect and attention. The family repair shop in Brownsville wasn't closed. On the contrary, it became a center for technical excellence and a school for young people from underprivileged areas interested in automotive mechanics. With financial support from Elegance Motors, the space was expanded and modernized, maintaining the welcoming essence it had always had. 6 months after the dealership's transformation, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, Michael and Jason parked a gleaming silver sedan in front of the family home. Grandma Rose, waiting on the porch, opened an emotional smile upon seeing the vehicle. "Is it for me?" she asked, with tears in her eyes. "All yours, Grandma," replied Jason, handing her the keys. "Adapted exactly as you need." The car had been modified with ramp access for wheelchairs, special controls, and all the comfort that the elderly woman deserved after a life of sacrifices for her family. "You didn't need to," she began, touched. "Yes, we did," Michael gently interrupted. "This car is what started our whole journey." As they helped Grandma Rose get into the new vehicle for a drive, Helen and William Harrison arrived to participate in the small celebration. The businessman, who had become a mentor to the brothers, observed the scene with evident satisfaction. "You know, Helen, I think this is what they call destiny," he commented. "Who would have thought that such a sad episode would reconnect us with Rose and bring us these two extraordinary talents?" Helen smiled, affectionately squeezing her husband's arm. "Sometimes something needs to go wrong for everything to finally go right." Inside the new car, Grandma Rose held a small yellowed photograph. Her and her late husband decades ago in front of the first repair shop they opened with the slogan, "Wright and Sons, honesty comes first." Beside her, William recognized the photo. John Wright was a man ahead of his time, he commented, with respect in his voice. He would be proud to see where his grandsons have arrived. Grandma Rose nodded, emotional. Before he passed, he made me promise that I would make sure the boys found their place in the world. I think I've finally fulfilled my promise. The silver sedan smoothly left the curb, taking the family for a drive around the city. In the rearview mirror, Michael observed the house where they grew up getting smaller, but not with nostalgia or sadness. It was just a reminder of the path traveled, the difficulties overcome, and the lessons learned. On one of New York's main avenues, the car stopped at a traffic light. In the vehicle next to them, a man in simple clothes looked with admiration at the gleaming sedan. Jason lowered the window and smiled at the stranger. "Nice car, huh?" commented the man. "Thanks. If you're interested, visit Elegance Motors. Ask for the Wright brothers." The man nodded, surprised by the friendliness. "I'll stop by." When the light turned green, Grandma Rose commented, "You boys have really embraced this new life, haven't you?" Michael smiled in the rearview mirror. "We've embraced the purpose, Grandma, to transform that place that rejected us into a space where no one else will be judged by their appearance or background." Jason added, "And to show that arrogant manager that people like us not only can buy luxury cars but can also run the business better than he ever could." Grandma Rose watched her grandsons with undisguised pride. From two boys who lost their parents early and grew up under her guardianship, they had become men who not only overcame adversity but transformed an experience of humiliation into an opportunity for change for many others. "Do you know what your grandfather always said?" she asked, looking out the window at the passing city. "It's not the car that shows who you are, but how you drive through life." The brothers smiled. It was one of the many wise phrases from their grandfather that they carried with them, even though they had spent little time with him. The drive ended at a small family restaurant, where William and Helen were already waiting for them for a celebration lunch. As they enjoyed the meal, plans for the future were animatedly discussed. The expansion of the training program for young people from underprivileged areas, new technologies for the service sector, and even the possibility of opening branches in other regions of the city. Jason at one point raised his glass in a toast to transformation, from a moment of humiliation to a revolution in the sector. Everyone raised their glasses, celebrating not just the personal achievements, but the change they were promoting in a traditionally exclusive and inaccessible sector. The following week, the Wright brothers' story was featured in a special report on entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity. The responsible journalist followed a workday at the transformed dealership, witnessing the innovative approach implemented by the duo. "How would you define what you've done here?" asked the reporter, impressed with the changes. Michael reflected for a moment before answering. "We didn't just change a dealership, we're trying to change a culture." The report highlighted initiatives, such as the inclusive hiring program, which gave opportunities to people traditionally excluded from the luxury market, and the humanized service that didn't evaluate customers based on appearance or apparent purchasing power. The article ended with a powerful image. Grandma Rose in her new adapted car, arriving at the dealership to visit her grandsons, being received with a red carpet literally extended by a team of smiling attendants trained by Jason. 6 months became a year, and the success of the new management was undisputed. Sales increased by 40%, but the most impressive was the 200% growth in customer satisfaction measured by independent surveys. The inclusive business model developed by the Wright brothers was being studied by other companies in the sector. On a Friday afternoon after work, Michael found a forgotten folder on his desk. Upon opening it, he discovered an old envelope with the letterhead of their grandfather's old repair shop. Inside was a yellowed letter addressed to the future Wrights. With his heart racing, he called Jason and Grandma Rose to his office. Together they read the words written by their grandfather decades before. "To my grandsons, whom I haven't yet met, if you're reading this letter, it's because you've Found your way in the world of engines as I always dreamed. I don't know what challenges you faced to get here, but I know well the obstacles that people like us encounter on this path. Always remember, cars can be fixed with tools, but people are transformed by examples. It's not enough to be the best. Mechanic. You need to be the best human being you can be. One day perhaps you'll be in a position to open doors for others who come after. When that day arrives, don't forget where you came from and how many doors were closed to you. With eternal love, John Wright. Grandma Rose wiped away the tears that flowed freely. He wrote this a few days before he passed. He said, "I should deliver it when you found your true place." Michael and Jason, grown men and now respected executives, couldn't contain their emotion. The letter seemed like a message through time, confirming they were on the right path. That night, as they were closing the dealership, Michael observed a young man in simple clothes looking at the cars through the showroom window, with the same dreamy look that he and his brother had years ago. Instead of ignoring him or calling security, as the former manager would have done, Michael opened the door and invited the young man in. "We're closing, but I can show you what interests you." The young man, surprised by the receptiveness, entered timidly. "I was just looking, I can't buy any of this." Michael smiled, recognizing the mixture of admiration and embarrassment that he himself had felt. Not today, perhaps, but tomorrow, who knows? He extended a card. "We have openings in our training program. If you like cars, it could be a good start." The young man's eyes lit up with a possibility that didn't exist before. As he watched the young man leave with the card firmly held in his hand, Michael felt that the circle was complete. The humiliation they suffered had transformed into an opportunity not just for them, but for many others who would come after. The next morning, upon arriving at the dealership, Michael found a surprise. The young man from the night before was there punctually at 8 a.m. to sign up for the training program. Beside him were two more friends, equally hopeful. Jason, seeing the scene, approached his brother. "Looks like we have new candidates." Michael nodded, observing the young men who waited nervously, clearly uncomfortable in the luxurious environment, exactly as they had been one day. "Grandpa would be proud," commented Jason as they walked to receive the candidates. The story of the Wright brothers continued to unfold, not just as a case of personal triumph, but as an example of social transformation through work and dignity. What had begun with a public humiliation had become a journey of reinvention for an entire sector. And it all started with two brothers determined to buy a car for their sick grandmother, dressed in simple clothes after a day's work at the repair shop, entering a dealership where they weren't welcome. Life, as Grandma Rose used to say, has these ironies. Sometimes you need to be kicked out the front door to return as the owner through the back door. End of story. And you? Have you ever experienced a situation of prejudice that later transformed into an opportunity? Share your experience in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more touching stories that show that dignity always wins in the end.